Thank you so much. So it's going to be a quick, little recap of what I did this year. Let's see. Yeah. So the topics I'm going to cover is basically the beginning, the very beginning, and then my fall semester, my spring semester, and then some summer plans and some final notes that I would like to share. So this was like my very first actual official Top Scholar, like special scholars event. And it was such an incredible way to just be introduced into the community because I felt like I really got to know my fellow scholars way better than at selection. Because one thing that we all agreed upon was that everything was like a blur. We were like, who are you? Who are you? So it was a really good way to get to know my cohort a bit closer and really have that interaction in like this fun environment where we got to go to downtown. And it was also a great way to talk to the rest, like TLS and Terry's, who unfortunately we don't get too much time with because, everybody's doing their separate thing. But I had a lot of fun there. And moving on to the beginning, where it all began with 17 credit hours. So one of the classes that really stood out to me was Dr. Fleurier's Learning to Lead. So in that class, we really learned what it means to be a leader, and we developed our own philosophies on what we would want to do as leaders. So to develop that philosophy, you can't start from zero, right? You need to know how are others doing it. So we got to meet a lot of people like Ron Nuremberg and then Judge Wolf over there. I actually hosted Judge Wolf. So we all got to host one of, a politician or like an important figure from San Antonio. And Judge Wolf was mine. And it was really interesting getting to learn about his story because he had his MBA and then he was also like law school. And I was like, hey, I also kind of want to do law school. Like, this is pretty cool after hearing like how his experience was. And it really helped me kind of reflect on what do I want to do as a leader, right? Because I came in knowing nothing. And this kind of helped me figure out that I really want to be a kind of free leader, but also I want to have those rules, but I want to let my people kind of do their thing because I feel like freedom is like the ultimate form of self-expression and creativity, and that's how you get the most, results. And then I started getting involved a little bit in BMES, Quality of Life Plus, and then TSSO, of course. So I started in BMES and it was I was shy at first, but I was just starting to come to the general meetings, kind of see what's up, what's going on, what are we doing here? And a thing that really stood out to me was that they did a lot of industry tours and they invited a lot of speakers. So I got to go to Envision, I got to speak with someone from Stryker, and then we had this independent company that hired engineers, but they actually did like court cases, like criminal law cases. So that was super interesting to hear about. And I feel like it was a really good introduction into BMES. And that's what made me want to continue. So I have more on that in my spring semester. And TSSO, of course, I loved attending all the events in the fall. It was super fun. I really love to see that we're kind of nurturing our community of top scholars, that it's not like, you're in, okay, bye. It's like, we want to be with you, we want to interact with you, get to know you better. And so that's why I loved attending a lot of the socials. And I was really determined to, become an officer because I was super passionate about it. I'm like, how can I help more with this? And that's also coming up in the spring semester as well. So lots of big things. And then QL Plus was something I kind of looked at. I wasn't officially in it, but it was something that interested me more and more as the fall semester went on. So this was my very first honors event, which was basically sign your name, say what you want to do, and then take a cute little picture. That was really fun. I loved it. Of course, we also had our little big and little event. So Kellyanne was my big, and it was really great getting to know her. And we still stay in touch. She checks up on me all the time. She says, how are you doing? How's this? Like, congratulations on this. So I also really appreciate that part of the Top Scholar community where you're nurturing these relationships and you're making sure nobody feels alone, right? Nobody feels left out. So I really love that. And I'm so excited to be a big next year because it's been like such a crucial thing for me to have that support. And I really want to be that support for someone else. And even during selection, one of our scholars currently now, Julian, he was like, oh my gosh, I would be so happy if you were my big. And I immediately felt, I was like, oh,
it's great. You picked during selection.
So fingers crossed, yeah, I do get him as my little. Um, and then of course we have our TSSO event. So this is just an example of something we did. This was like our little like imagination boards, like what do we want for our year? And that's also where I kind of like built a closer connection to Zoe and Julie. So Zoe is actually going to be my roommate next year because we built those connections through all those TSSO events and through like, you know, hanging out outside. And I'm going to be working with Julie more next year. That's coming up in the spring for why I'm doing that. And then in fall semester, I had an AIS course. And so for our AIS course, we were told to, you know, attend a career expo to see how it is. I had no idea what a career expo was. I was coming in, I thought it would be like, you know, oh, you talked to a couple people. No, it was a major event. There were so many people, hundreds of people, and I feel like I figured out in like that event, that you have to figure out a way to stand out, you know? And that's what's really important, and that kind of stuck with me now. So I'm still thinking about, compared to the hundreds of people, what is going to make me stand out, you know, in the future, like for grad school, because I want to go to grad school. What's going to make me look special to these recruiters? Why would they want to hire me? Why would they want to take me? So that's a really important lesson that I learned from being in that sea of people. And then moving on, this is the Celia program. So we had that like scholars course, which was Foundations of Civic Ethos. Super great. Professor Amatangelo, she's amazing. And so in the Celia program, we basically connected with students from across the like international, across the globe. And in that sense, we learned a lot of what it means to be culturally sensitive, of what it means to really listen and think about what people are saying instead of just saying, oh, well, I do it like this, so that's it. So we learned a lot to listen to other cultures. We learned to be sensitive. We learned to be understanding of other people's cultures. And at the end, for being active members of the Celia program, we got a little certificate that told us, yay, you completed it. Now you know how to speak with other people, basically. And that picture over there is what I mentioned. That was our Envision tour. I'm a little on the side, but you know, it was still fun seeing all of that, like what they worked with. They basically worked with prosthetics and medical devices, and they also had like a real cadaver lab. So cool. Yeah, we got to see them like actually like cutting into a foot and like testing a bunion device. Yeah, it's crazy, but it was cool. And then this is also a continuation of AIS. So this was my group. These were my girls for like all of November and December. And they really helped me because it was starting to get really tough towards the end of the semester. And I was like, I really need some help. I really need support. And they were basically my support system. So we were working on our project. We had our cute like little weekly meetings. And through that, I learned both, you know, communication, and I learned the importance of support systems. But I also learned some like actual technical skills. So we were coding an app through Python. So it was like a little like meal planning app where you would be able to plan out your meals, make sure you're eating healthy. And then I was mainly in charge of, I was like the team lead, but I was also in charge of our budgeting. So I learned a lot about budgeting. I learned a lot about how expensive it is to actually make an app and put it on the App Store, and then all the rules to get it monetized and everything like that. So I thought that was a very valuable like technical asset that I learned. And then we, of course, had our cohort service project. So this was our toy drive with Latched. So we collected a bunch of toys. I was responsible for the community outreach. So I basically reached out to a lot of people. I'm in the Church of Latter-day Saints. So I reached out to like my church friends and I said, if y'all have any spare toys, we're donating to kids in need like this Christmas. And they sure came out. They absolutely came out with that. And I was so thankful to be a part of that community and to see that people are really willing to help. Like all you need to do is ask, which means like closed mouths don't get fed, which is a big thing that I learned here. So yeah, that was a big success. I was super happy about that. And to end off the fall semester with a bang, I got accepted into Dr. Guda's lab. So that's where I'm currently working. Yeah. It was super nerve-wracking. After like a whole semester of being busy and working, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get into a lab. Like I really want to do research again. I was really driven to get back into research because I'd done it all throughout high school and I'm like, well, I can't stop now. I need to look for someone. So through a lot of trial and error, had to reach out to a lot of professors, get a lot of rejections, but eventually got an acceptance from Dr. Guda, which was super exciting. And now I'm working there. There's more info on that in the spring. So moving on to the spring, finished fall 2025 with a 4.0. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do 19 credit hours. Maybe a little bit of a mistake, but you know, good things don't come easy. So spring semester is where it really starts to pick up. So I started running and for like a bunch of elections for a bunch of councils. So the Klesi Student Advisory Council was one of the more minor things I was involved in the fall, but I was like, I need to get a little more involved because it's a very officer-based organization. So to do a lot of stuff, you need to be an officer. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I want to help out. I want to do something. I want to organize events. So I was super excited about this. I got elected as their BME representative. So starting in the fall, I'm going to be organizing all those events for BMEs. I'm going to be reaching out to my fellow BMEs and, you know, basically just advocating for them in the larger like KCEID sphere. Moving on, Quality of Life Plus as well, elected as their finance director because I was, okay, I don't think I included this in the presentation, but in TSSO, I ran for and was elected unanimously, by the way, because no one else ran. I was elected as their finance director, so I was like, you know, I now have like some of this experience going on already in the spring, so I'd be qualified to be a finance director in QL Plus, and also a lot of our top scholars are there, so it's like I already have that community. I really want to help them out. And I got elected as their finance director, so I'm super excited about that. And moving on again. In TSSO, I was elected as the director of communications after a wonderful spring semester. I had so much fun in TSSO being the finance director, and I was like, you know, I kind of want to branch out into the more communications because I really enjoyed what I did in outreach for our cohort service project. So I was like, I want to talk to the people. Like, I want to be with the people a bit more. So communications it was. And last but not least, in BMES, I was also elected as industry outreach because, yeah, I was so excited about this one, especially because I was in BMES for the entirety of the fall and the spring, and I felt like they were the most supportive community that I had met outside of the Top Scholar program in the greater UTSA sphere. And I really loved all the events they hosted. I loved their workshops. Everyone was super nice. Like, you didn't feel like just another person in BMES. And I was like, you know what? I really love the energy that they bring. And I want to continue bringing that energy to people in the future. So that's why I ran for an officer position as well. And it was specifically with industry because I knew that I could use the connections that I have both as a top scholar and as a previous Volcker alumna to, you know, create those connections for future people and help these people land internships and jobs, which is what I'm really passionate about. And then we have a class that's called Intro to BME this spring semester. So I am in that class with Brianna, actually. She's also on my team. And we're working to model basically an advanced chemoport. So currently chemoports don't really have any design that helps you figure out when is there thrombosis, is there infection going on? So these conditions are only detected by healthcare personnel when it gets to a critical point. And then these people can't afford to have, you know, infections. They can't afford to have thrombosis. They can't afford to have all of these additional issues while they are fighting cancer already. So this was something we were super passionate about, both personally for some of our group members and, you know, broader for the rest of our group members. So I learned a lot about the design process. So when I heard from Dr. Gaviria that we would have to design and make this on our own, I was like, whoa, what do you mean? How am I going to do this? Where do I start? What do I do? And I learned a lot about the process over the semester because I was both talking to my peers in my group and I was kind of looking up, okay, what are the dimensions of a current chemoport? What do current chemoports look like? Like, what is going on here? What is going on? How do we figure this out? So I learned a lot about researching design, and then not only that, but we physically had to model it. So I was thinking like, I remember this idea and it was so funny. I was like, guys, doesn't like the port of a chemo port kind of look like a Febreze like car freshener? And they're like, huh, you're right. We could use that. So we ended up using that for our modeling. And then we brought some clay, we brought some wires, and we actually made like a little chemo port in real life, which was super exciting. I love the hands-on part. I'm a super hands-on person, so I love that part of learning. And also, we learned to CAD. So CADing was the most horrendous thing of my life. Figuring out SolidWorks was absolutely insane. It took me literally like 2 hours to make a simple model because I was like, why are these cylinders not moving in the right direction? Why is it when I move one thing, everything moves the other way? So I feel like that process was a lot of trial and error, and it taught me that you really need to put a lot of effort into some things. Like not everything is going to come easy. And I know as top scholars, a lot of us think that way because, everything has always been easy for us. We've always been, the top. And this kind of taught me to be a bit more humble and be like, wow, yeah, I don't know a lot of technical stuff yet. Let me start working on this a little bit more. So I'm still continuing to try and work on SolidWorks a bit more. It's a very difficult program, but I heard there's certifications and I definitely want to try and take a course so that I can get better in that because that also improves your employability, as a BME. A lot of employers are looking for that. And then this is a bit more from Guda's lab. So this semester was absolutely jam-packed with a lot of symposiums, a lot of presentations for me. So this one was the BME CME symposium specifically. This was the first time I had presented any of the research that I had been working on in Guda's lab. So a lot of this is preliminary stuff. So this was kind of stuff that was done before I came to the lab, but I helped with like creating the little tubes and I learned a lot about that process. So I was able to share that at the VME symposium, and it was such a super fun like process. I was like, ugh, I missed research so much. My last symposium was like back in 2025 March in New York, and I was like, I need to go out there and present it again. So I really enjoyed that, super fun. And then another symposium coming up. So we had our undergraduate research week, which was last week actually, and I got to present my research again. So even more practice. And this taught me a lot about public speaking, about remaining calm, because I felt in the BME CME symposium that I was like, wow, I had gotten out of practice with presenting because I kept looking at the poster. I was like, oh my gosh, how's the flow supposed to be for this? So for undergraduate research week, I was definitely way more confident in my speaking skills. And I was way more confident in presenting the research that was on that poster. So I really enjoyed that. And then moving on, I also did their 3MT competition. So yeah, this was also based on the research. Yes, this was the greatest news like of this semester when I saw it.
Fantastic.
I went up there and I was like so nervous, but everyone said, oh, you did great, you did great. I was like, I was shaking, I was scared because I had to give in like in front of a room of people and I was on a timer and I was like, am I getting this out right? But it ended up that I did get it out right. So I won first place in the 3MT. That was super great. I was not expecting it. Honestly, it was my first year doing this, first time doing this. I was like, oh, it's just for practice, but turned out well. And then we also had a lot of volunteering that we did. So this was with Corazon Clinic. So we went downtown and we basically helped out the whole day. So I had like a really exciting day for some reason. I was all over the place. So at first I started with, folding clothes, giving clothing to the homeless, to the people in need. And then one of the ladies that worked there, she worked there like as a regular, and she said, hey, do you want to go get coffee and donuts with me for everyone? And I said, sure. So we drove all the way to Dunkin' Donuts. We got donuts and coffee for everyone. We came back. I went on like coffee duty and like water duty. So then I handed out like coffee and water with Anna. And then like it was so fun getting to know all of the people. And it was just such a great experience because I feel like I learned that like people are just so interesting to talk to and everyone has their own stories, right? Despite the situation they may be in, like these are people with stories, with lives. And it also taught me to be really grateful for what I have because, not everyone gets to go home, not everyone gets to go to their dorm, have a hot shower, have a hot meal. And it was really the importance of being humble, having that humility.
I'm gonna give you a time check. You are at 21 minutes, so you've
Okay.
got 4 minutes to completely wrap up.
So I'll wrap up here real quick. We also went to the food bank, super fun experience. We met a lot of great people there as well. It was super great. I loved it. I was there with Ricky and Anna. We were sorting stuff out. And that was just a great experience in general. It was super fun because we were all there together. And then for our cohort service project for the spring, I feel like mainly Zoe and I did a lot of like the heavy lifting with stuff, and we made over 100 thank you cards for our 911 dispatchers. So this was super exciting for us, and I feel like it was a great way to connect with her more because we're gonna be roommates next semester, and it was really great that we got to do something fun, but that it would also benefit and make others feel better as well. And then I got to hold a Raising Cane's fundraiser at the end of the semester. So this was super exciting. We raised $198.74 for Cards for Kids. And this is my very first fundraiser, so I was like super excited. I was trying to get it out there, and I'm really glad to see that a lot of people showed up to help. And it was just a great fundraiser overall, and it was a great social as well. So moving on, my summer plans. Germany. Yeah. So I'm going to be off to Germany for the program hosted by you and Dr. Aguilar this summer. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see all those research institutions and get to meet all of these people and kind of immerse myself in the German culture because I am in the future. I'm thinking of seeking a PhD there in Germany somewhere. So I definitely need to look into that a little more. And I'm very passionate about doing dog rise. So I'm going to try and apply to that for the next fall. So the final notes I want to share, I just want to thank, everyone that helped me, my top scholar community, program directors, of course. And I want to thank my family for, always being there for me. Because my mom was definitely there to hear a lot about, oh, this is so difficult. Oh, I don't know if I can do this. But I still got it done. She didn't raise a quitter. Yeah, thank you.
Great job, Jessica. It has been a true joy to get to know you this year. I have especially enjoyed in the spring. I feel like I've got to know you a whole lot better since I'm not your advisor. And I, like you, am also very excited about our study abroad and our class this summer. So you've done a lot of great things. I think you're kind of checking each of the things that we really want students to be involved in. You're doing really well academically. You are, diving into deeper things that are going to help expand your career and getting to know faculty. Those faculty connections are really critical as well. And I feel like you've also kind of enjoyed some things and found a community too. So I think it's all working really well. I'm very happy to see what comes next for you. I would say, don't feel like you need to take 19 hours. So neat. You've hit the mark. So, and don't forget to ask for help and take some time for yourself along the way too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anything from our guests online? We've got a couple of different people online. I just want to invite them to unmute if they'd like to. Okay, well, thank you very much, Jessica. Our next presenter is Mauricio, so we will transition from there. Thanks for being here for the folks that are online with us.